Hello, and welcome to another video. This is Kinfolk Chat with Swarthy Daisy. In today's video, we are going to look at a breakdown of my Nigerian ancestry. In a previous video, I took a look at my Cameroonian ancestry, and I kind of based it off of my results from Ancestry DNA. So for this video, I'm going to do the same thing, use Ancestry DNA for the foundation. We'll look at 23andMe and some other tests that I have used in the past to put the entire picture together. I'm going to go ahead and let my digital assistant read the information from the Ancestry DNA site, and from there we'll follow up and make connections.
Nigeria, primarily located in Central African Republic, Nigeria, also found in Benin, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, Gambia, Liberia, Niger, Sierra Leone. Our Nigeria region takes its name from the most populous country in Africa, where more than 168 million people live in an area about twice the size of California. In fact, Nigeria has 6 cities with populations over 1 million. The United States has 9. From its tropical south to the arid north, Nigeria as a country is a concept and product of colonialism, bringing together more than 250 ethnic groups within fairly arbitrary borders. Geography: Nigeria's seacoast in the south, with its mangrove swamps in the Niger Delta, gives way to a band of tropical rainforest and then savanna and drier Sahel grasslands in the north. Along with the landscape, the climate varies, from wet and tropical along the coast to more arid conditions in the Sahel, where a 3 to 4 month rainy season is followed by hot, dry temperatures. Modern-day Nigeria's northern area once encompassed the southern end of trans-Saharan trade routes, where salt, cloth, and other goods were brought across the desert to trade for gold, ivory, cola, nuts, and slaves from the south. Religion: throughout West Africa, Muslim traders brought Islam, as well as goods with them across the Sahara, and the religion was adopted by some in Nigeria's northern Sahel and savanna regions by at least the 9th century. Islam made its way to the south during the reign of Malian Emperor Mansa Musa, if not before. Christianity came later, with European traders who interacted with groups in the south. Religious preferences still maintain this north-south divide, with Islam predominating in the north among the Fulani and Hausa, and Christianity in the south. Today, Nigeria is about 50% Muslim and 40% Christian, with about 10% embracing traditional or indigenous beliefs. Kingdoms of the past: the oldest human remains found in Nigeria have been dated to 9000 BC, though the region was likely inhabited before then. There's evidence of ironworking from around 600 BC. The earliest known Iron Age civilization in Nigeria is the Nok, who lived in northern and central Nigeria between about 1000 BC and 300 AD. They are known for their life-size terracotta statues. Following the Nok, large kingdoms and smaller, village-based groups established themselves in the area over the next millennia. The Yoruba, one of the largest ethnic groups in Nigeria today, trace their roots back to the city of Ile-Ife in southwestern Nigeria. The city became an important center of trade in the 12th century. Like the Nok before them, the Yoruba of this period were sculptors, creating works in terracotta, iron, and bronze. The city was also known for its courtyards paved in shards of pottery. Unlike Ile-Ife, the Yoruba kingdom of Oyo maintained an army and established a kingdom that dominated western Nigeria during the 17th and early 18th centuries. To the south, the Edo people established the Kingdom of Benin, which expanded from a magnificent city into a powerful empire during the 15th century. When Portuguese traders first visited the city, they were impressed by its size and splendor, and Benin sent an ambassador to Lisbon in the early 16th century. Benin is known for its carvings, and its bronze ashich are actually brass. In the north, on the edge of the Sahel, the Hausa established states that thrived on trans-Saharan trade, especially after the collapse of the Mali and Songhai empires, when trade moved farther east. The Hausa states adopted Islam, establishing madrasas and building beautiful mosques, while also warring against one another. The Hausa states were incorporated into the Sokoto Caliphate during a jihad led by the Fulani people in the early 19th century. The slave trade. Slaves had always been part of West African trade across the Sahara, but gold was the chief commodity that built the great empires of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. This changed once Portuguese traders began plying West Africa's coasts in the late 15th century. Once the Europeans began turning to Africa as a source of slaves for the sugar plantations in the New World, the transatlantic market grew exponentially. On Nigeria's southern coast, slave traders often contracted with local kings or chiefs to provide slaves, with the Kingdom of Oyo and the Aro Confederacy, an Igbo group, becoming two major suppliers. Great Britain abolished slavery in 1807, but a profitable trade continued well into the 19th century, with traders running British blockades off Nigeria. Some estimates put the number of slaves sent to the Americas from Nigeria at 3.5 million. Ethnic groups. While modern-day Nigeria is home to more than 250 ethnic groups, the four largest account for almost 70% of the population: the Hausa and Fulani. The Hausa people form one of the largest ethnic groups in West Africa. They are located primarily in northern Nigeria and southern Niger. The Hausa language is spoken as a first language by around 40 million people, more than any other language in sub-Saharan Africa. In Nigeria, the Hausa have integrated with the Fulani to the extent that the group is often referred to as Hausa Fulani. The Fulani are spread over many West African countries, including Senegal, Mali, and Burkina Faso. Historically, the Fulani were nomads who kept cattle. They are also strongly linked to Islam. The Fulani led the jihads that helped establish the Sokoto Caliphate in Hausa lands during the 19th century. They are a minority population in each country they inhabit, with the exception of Guinea, where they represent 40% of the population. In Nigeria, the Hausa Fulani account for about 30% of Nigeria's population. The Yoruba live in southwestern Nigeria and the southern portion of neighboring Benin. They make up about 20% of Nigeria's population. The Yoruba were greatly affected by the transatlantic slave trade. Their territory was one of the most significant slave exporting regions in Africa during the 1800s. The largest concentrations of Yoruba ended up in Cuba, Brazil, and Trinidad. The Igbo and Yoruba peoples from the Bights of Benin and Biafra constituted roughly one-third of all enslaved Africans transported to the Americas. The Igbo people are another large and influential ethnic group in Nigeria. With a population of about 30 million, they are found primarily in southeastern Nigeria, as well as Cameroon, Sierra Leone, and Equatorial Guinea. The transatlantic slave trade also had a massive impact on the Igbo. Many of those sold into slavery were kidnapped or captured as prisoners of war. Others were debtors or had been convicted of crimes. Several scholars assert that Igbo slaves were reputed to be especially rebellious. Some would even commit suicide rather than endure enslavement. Elements of Igbo culture can still be seen in former New World colonies. For instance, Jamaican Creole uses the Igbo word for you, and a section of Belize City is named Igbo Town after its Igbo inhabitants. In the United States, a high concentration of slaves in Maryland and Virginia were Igbo, and their descendants still make up a large proportion of the African American population in the area.
Now, taking a look at my results from Ancestry DNA, we see that I have Nigeria at 22%. And then from there, jumping over to the section of the site that shows the ethnicities, and it separates paternal and maternal ancestry. Again, my mom and dad did not test on this platform, but they did their best to calculate it based on my results. And as you see, when I tap on Nigeria to isolate the percentages, the DNA inherited from my father presents more Nigerian than my mother, although they both have Nigerian ancestry. So I thought that was interesting. And then jumping over to 23andMe, I have Nigerian at 25%. When gathering the resources for this video, I stumbled upon something that I hadn't noticed before. So when I isolated the Nigerian portion, looked through all of the resources under Nigeria, I saw that there was a connection, a family connection that I had not noticed. This person tested about 6 months ago, and he is 99.9% pretty much Nigerian. So that was super, super, super cool. Now, I'm going to show you some information. I did redact his personal information because I did reach out to him. He has not responded, but I don't have permission to publicly share his last name and stuff like that. But here, when I go to compare your ancestry, it says compare your genetic ancestries to discover your shared origins and unique family histories. And it says for Ikechukwu, I hope I'm saying it right, he is 99.9% sub-Saharan African. And when we expand on that, we see that he has 99.9% Nigerian specifically. And then here we see under family background, his maternal grandmother's birthplace is Nigeria. His maternal grandfather's birthplace is Nigeria. His paternal grandmother's birthplace is Nigeria. And his paternal grandfather's birthplace is also Nigeria. Next, under your genetic relationship, it says predicted relationship is fourth cousin. So the two of us share a set of third great grandparents. We could also be from different generations, removed cousins, or share only one ancestor, half cousins. This section shows the maternal haplogroup and paternal. So for me, my maternal is L2D. His is L1B1A7. And then for his paternal, he is E-P252. Here, Wikipedia reports that the L1 haplogroup is most common in Central Africa and West Africa. And here it shows L1B1A is a branch on the maternal tree of humanity. Though its origin is in Africa, members of this lineage are connected to several early migrations into Europe. It is also present in parts of South America due to both European colonization and the transatlantic slave trade. And then here, E-P252, it originated and grew rapidly about 5,000 years ago, probably in West Africa. It's very common in West Africa throughout Bantu-speaking populations of the rest of Africa, as well as the African diaspora. Now, looking at relatives in common, on my paternal side, I, of course, had to redact information because I don't have permission to show photos and first and last names. But the top connection of mine on my father's side is my second cousin. He's on the Gibson side, and he also shares ancestry with my Nigerian connection. So this is the side of my family. Again, my father's side is from the Bahamas. This second cousin on the Gibson side, also Bahamian and or of Bahamian ancestry. I don't know him personally, but I do have a mutual cousin that knows him and is managing this kit. So I have a lot of background on this individual. So yeah, interesting. Next, I wanted to find out what his name meant. So I went online and I see that his name is Igbo, which means the power of God. So I thought that was so interesting. So it is likely that the ancestry on my father's side, that's Nigerian, is possibly Igbo. So I'm just keeping that in mind as I continue to do my research. Next, I hopped over to my heritage DNA. They show that I have 44.8% Nigerian, and it says Southern and Northeastern USA, African Americans in Southern and in Northeastern United States typically have this ancestry. So this is also interesting. Each platform kind of predicts my percentage differently. They said it's higher here on my Ancestry DNA. And I also want to note that my mother is also, again, like I showed you, part Nigerian. I did do a maternal ancestry test with African ancestry, and they found that we had Yoruba on my maternal line. So you'll probably see that number factored into it. So if my dad's Igbo, mom's side is Yoruba, that makes sense. Here it says, Nigeria has the largest population in Africa, and its people belong to over 250 sub-ethnic groups, the largest of which are the Ishan and the Yoruba. It goes on to say that many people of African descent in the Americas, and particularly in the Caribbean, have some Nigerian ethnicity. Next, hopping over to Family Tree DNA, they show Nigeria at 33%. My wheat gene results show Yoruba 80.69%. Over at Living DNA, it shows West Africa 85.8 and Yoruba accounts for 29.5%. They also show Ishan at 9.6%. My VitaGene results show Africa at 96.74%, West Africa accounting for 93.76%, and primarily located in several areas, including Nigeria. And then over on your DNA portal, it shows Volta Niger 47.25% in one of their calculators. And that Volta Niger family of languages is one of the branches of the Niger Congo language family, with perhaps over 70 million speakers. Among these are the most important languages of southern Nigeria, it says. And also southeast, it says Yoruba and Igbo. And of course, that resource is from Wikipedia. Another calculator shows Ishan, Nigeria, 14.5%, and also Yoruba at 12.5%. Then over at Illustrative DNA, their breakdown shows Yoruba, Nigeria at 60.2%. Here, My True Ancestry also shows Yoruba. And here it says the Yoruba people are an African ethnic group that inhabits Western Africa. They developed out of earlier Mesolithic Volta Niger populations by the first millennium BC. My Living DNA also shows Yoruba at 29.5%. It also shows Ishan at 9.6%. So there you have it, my Nigerian breakdown. Of course, I could go into way more detail, but I didn't want this video again to be too long. But I really enjoyed looking into the resources, and of course I'll do updates to my ancestry as they arise. But yeah, let me know what you all think about my research and what you think about my findings. Make sure to leave a comment below. Also, if you know someone who's interested in researching Nigeria, make sure to send them a link and share this video with them. Also, make sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe if you are not subscribed. Once again, I appreciate your support, and I'll see you in the next video.